Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties trying to get on. Today's training is working with PALS. Now, by show of hands, please, if you can hear me, can you, on the window pane here, just raise your hand right next to your name? Okay, fantastic. If you can see my screen, please, with show of hands, let me know that you can see my screen. I see Melissa can see. Okay, Kristen can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Andrea Parker, Andrea Rosa. Okay, perfect. So a lot of people can see my screen and can hear me, correct? All right, thank you for that. Again, I apologize for my, being a little bit late. I will obviously cover enough material, hopefully, to make it worth, of course, your time. And what we're going to do is, at the end of the training itself, we're gonna make sure that you guys can have you can answer your question. I mean, ask your questions, and I'll try to as best as possible and get to those questions. Here says Alexander says I can't see your screen. Okay, is that anybody else can't see my screen? Can you type up in the you don't have anything on the screen either. Okay, good to know. Let's see here. Show my screen. Can okay. Okay, everyone can see the screen now. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so today is we're working with PALS. Some of you might already know, some of you might already know, we do have PALS that we offer. Okay, PALS stands for Practice Area Legal Solutions. So the PALS at times, well, actually, lately, when we sell our abacus, it comes with promotion or some sort, and it's actually including the PALS in there. As far as the details on that, I don't know the exact latest bundle that they're offering, but regardless, it's always good to contact your salesperson to see if you hadn't had a PAL before, how to actually get a hold of one. Okay. Now, your PALs, depending on the practice areas, obviously, of your firm, you can have many that are available to you. Okay. With that said, I don't know if any of you know or understand the components of the PAL. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our website as a guide, and I'm going to show you where you can find all the details for every single different practice area that we have for our PALs. So that's going to be under by industry. And as you can see here, you see how it says solutions by practice area? Depending on your practice area of court, family law, employment law, civil litigation, you can see for yourself all the ones that we have to offer. So at any given time, some firms actually have more than one PAL that they've purchased. Within that PAL, here's going to be a breakdown of what comes within that PAL. Okay, so let's go, for example, to the more popular ones like family law. If I click on family law, it'll take me straight to the breakdown page, right, where it's emphasizing the components of what the PAL has. Now, every single PAL, for the most part, is going to have what we call rules-based calendaring, right, that come with. In other words, a rule is, again, in this instance, a group of multiple events within one particular rule. So the minute you actually assign or calendar a rule, it'll then generate multiple events at once, and they're all related with one another, right? And they're all going to be within a timeline. So for the ones for family law, for example, you can have a new adoption case, new divorce case, file complete for divorce, all of the information here within. Okay. Not only does it come with rule-based calendar, it's going to come with specific reports. Again, general types of reports that can be very useful. Some of them are obviously being samples. It also comes with general forms as well. Okay, it'll come with specific matter screens, as in adoption, custody, divorce standard, domestic violence, that you can see very specific to family law. Same thing with the name screens. It's going to have that as well. And last but not least, one of the main components, the intake form, right? The intake screens or intake forms, as we call them. That is all going to be in every single practice area that you look for. It's going to have its own obviously details when it comes to these different components are going to make it up. So at the end of the day, you're looking at a solution to your practice area that will have specific screens, right? And fields related with your practice area. It'll even have case types and attached types, and even what we call the ALF files, Abacus Law formats for form generation purposes, and creating those as well. Okay, so if you were not aware and you wanted to see the whole breakdown of every single one of the PALs that you contain, again, just go to the abacusnext.com and then go by the by industry option. And then if you have obviously family law, and then you have personal injury, and you have any of the other ones you have, and you wanted to see a breakdown, this is a quick way of seeing what makes up that particular PAL. As you can see here, intake forms, this one has about 7 of them. Reports, there's plenty of these reports, plenty of name screens as well. See how the PI only has 2 matter screens compared to, like, say, family law had like 7 of them, right? So you can always see here in greater detail what's there. Now, of course, how does it all look like in your matters, in your actual Abacus Law? Now, first of all, you would clearly see and know the distinction between these if you've used some of these PALs already. And what I mean by the PALs, I'm talking about the actual components that make up the PAL, the intake forms, the matter screens, the name screens, right? It's all going to be within that PAL. As long as you obviously installed the PAL, you should have it available within your Abacus that you've purchased. So one other thing as far as the setup is concerned, if you go to File and you go to Setup and then User Preferences, right? At any given time, you can then go into your Appearance tab, and you should be able to check both of these boxes, as in the new name prompt for class code and the new matter prompt for case code. These should be checked because at any given time when you actually are entering a new case or entering a new name, it'll assist you in the process of sending you to the right matter screen. If you didn't have a PAL, I wouldn't suggest you to check these boxes because PALs are the ones that determine that, that take you away from the standard looking screens, right? If you have a PAL, you have specific matter screens. So it is ideal and imperative that you obviously, if you have the PALs, to use them. And of course, if you choose a divorce case type, then it'll take you to a divorce matter screen. If you have an accident, it'll take you to a PI screen. If you have employment law or workers' comp or even immigration screen, a case type, it'll take you to an immigration. So these two are going to be crucial for you to have that set up so that every time you open up a matter or open up a name, it takes you to the right smart matter screen or smart name screen. Okay, so this goes for those firms that may have a PAL, but I've never even used the intake form for that. So the simplest way of even creating a matter or case will allow you to use these particular startup preferences so that whenever you open up a case on the regular way, right, by simply clicking on matters, for example, going into add, you'll notice that a pop-up screen will come up saying, pick a case code. If I didn't have that box checked that I just showed you about, it would have simply taken me to a standard matter screen. Okay, and those standard screens, in case you haven't noticed before, this is how they look like. So I just want to give you a quick reference, right? So if I go back into my appearance and I uncheck the new matter prompt for case code, and I go back into my matter, and I click on add, it won't even prompt me what type of case I'm referring to. It'll just simply take me to a standard looking screen. So this is going to be news to those of you that have actually never seen a training or formal training or even seen this before. But if you have a PAL that you think that that you've purchased and you've never used it and you always were getting this standard screen, was because under user preferences you have that box unchecked. Hopefully that's not the case for any of you, but if you were always looking at this screen as opposed to a personal injury, a divorce, an adoption, immigration matter screen, then it's because, first of all, you never had the PAL to begin with, or second of all, you had the PAL, but you never had it properly set up. Okay, so hopefully that's not the case for any one of you, but if it is, you learned something new today. So if I go back into my setup, I'm going to make sure under my appearance, I have that checked. So when I click on done and I go back to my matters now, and I'm trying to, obviously, as you may know, you search for a particular matter doesn't exist, then you want to add it, right? When you add it, now I can say, oh, give me among the type of matters to add, I'm going to have a drop down because I do the training for obviously all practice areas, right? I'm going to have all of my different types of case codes related to specific matter screens. So if I come in here and I type in, let's say, divorce, it'll take me to a divorce case type, which entails and actually behind the scenes knows that is going to be coded to be linked to a divorce matter screen. That is part of the package that comes with by default with when you purchase the PALS, right? For depending on what PALS you purchase, all of these codings behind the scenes are already done for you. You can always alter that or modify it if you like, but this comes with. So if I go done as far as the divorce case, it'll take me to a divorce matter screen. So if I do this for immigration, workers' comp, civil litigation, anything that obviously I already have installed as a PAL, right? It'll know at least, to the least, take me to the right matter screen. So that's what PALs are all about. Having specific matter screens, specific name screens, specific intake forms, specific rules, right? Specific forms that come with, in case you're trying to figure that out, what type of forms are we referring to as far as the general forms? Well, if you're in your forms library, okay, and I were to say, okay, well, see how I have all these folders here? If you have the PAL for a particular case, I mean, a particular practice area like civil litigation, it'll come with a set. It's general forms, but still it comes with, and those are already designed, and those have already merge fields in them. So you can use them if you want as samples, right? That's why it says sample there. If you decide not to use them, that's fine as well. But just know that these are the kinds of forms that I'm referring to. If I go to immigration, right, it's not like it's going to give you all the immigration. That's a different package that you got to purchase altogether, right? This is more just the general types of immigration forms, not the up to date that's required by federal law, right? So just know that that's what I'm referring to when when talking about forms. By the same token, here's going to be your intake forms, okay? Depending on your practice area, if you have, let's say, civil litigation, that civil litigation practice pack has how many intake forms in it. As you can see, they're all listed here. Intake form if you represent a client, a plaintiff, or you represent a defendant, right? Web intake form, a regular civil litigation intake form. If I go down the line, family is going to have one for adoption, custody, divorce, domestic violence, guardianship. So what I like to tell most of my attendees is when they come to this and they, let's say they're using it for the first time or have never used it before, well, get in there and see what that intake form is all about. When I am referring to an adoption case of an intake form, what does it have? What are the details? How does that intake form look like? Okay, so the idea behind the PALs is to make your life a lot easier. If you have these PALs already created, I mean, already in place, then have the battle is sort of done. Why? Because all the fields are there specific to your practice area, as opposed to having something just standard like I showed you, which is obviously not much information. So having these PALs are going to help is going to help in the long run, of course, with regards to making it specific to your practice area. So if I wanted to go in, let's say, for example, into a divorce intake form, see, I'll have my information here about the matter at the top, my information about my client, okay, my opposing party or spouse information, and the opposing counsel. So instead of me having to link up and creating a regular name, create a matter, then create a name, and then have to actually add or create link names or attach types to that particular case, it's all predetermined for me here on the type of intake that I'm using. So my client that I enter here will automatically not only give me the name linked to my case or matter, but it'll link it as the client. Whatever I enter here as my name will create the name record, but it also will link it to the case or matter as the opposing party or spouse. In other words, as a spouse, right? Whatever I enter in my opposing counsel here, it'll link it up as well. So it's doing most of the work for us when it comes to the creation and setup of matters and names and how it's being maintained within the case and practice management. Okay, so If you haven't had the opportunity to use your PALs, then clearly you have to do two setups, right? The first thing is to ensure that you have it installed. That's going to be the first thing, okay? And for those of you that are wondering, well, how do I make sure that that's even happening? You can go to Help, you can go to Abacus Updates, and in there you should have listed your, if you haven't done so already, you should have the your PALs there. And once you have your PALs, then you'll be able to update it. Okay. And once that's installed, then you'll be ready to go. Okay. With reference to the rules, okay, some of you might not have used some of these rules before, but every particular PAL comes with a set of samples of rules for any given um, practice area. So if I were to just right click anywhere within my calendar and then go to add events from a rule, it's going to bring up my rules library, so to speak, right? So if I go in here and I start typing PI, as in personal injury, anything that starts with the word PI as in the rule name, these are rules that come with the PALs that you purchase. So the PI ADR, personal injury arbitration schedule, PI case, PI deposition, right? PI record request. If you're wondering, well, how do you know that all these match up? Well, if you pull back again my section here and I pull the PI, which this is the PI section, you can match, right? Some of the ones that are already in there, some of the rules-based calendaring. You see how it says PI ADR, PI case, PI depot? Those are the exact same ones that I had when I pulled these out. See, PI ADR, PI case, PI depot, PI info. Now, of course, in the website, you can't see the details of what you have within here. Okay, but here you can simply go into, let's say, a deposition one, and then you can click on edit, and then you'll see what makes up the rule PI depot for, obviously, that comes with that PAL that you have. Some of you might not have known that this existed, but now you know the components that make up a PAL. Again, name screens, matter screens, intake forms, rules-based calendaring like this one's, forms, right? The attached types, as in the type of cases that you have, the type of case being matched up with the right matter screen. Okay, same thing with the name screens. And last but not least, the ALF files. So for example, if you took a look at this PI deposition and you're like, well, this seems nice and great and fantastic, but maybe we need to make some modifications. What I normally recommend everyone is that they go in here, right? Let's say you wanted to, at one point or another, go over all the different types of rules that you have and maybe alter them or modify them. Then by all means, go one at a time like I just did now. Pull this one up first, and you can go to the print button and output to screen, right? When you output to screen, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to read and make modifications here. And then when you're ready to make any changes as far as the intervals are concerned or relative to what event number, right? Or even maybe change the description or create new descriptions, you can do that. So at times they don't, you're not even aware of all the different types of rules that exist for any one of your PALs, but now you have the ability to see that when you type PI, for example, these are all going to be listed, and you can match them up or compare by going back into your section in your Abacus Next, and you can then see, oh look, the PI ADR, the depot, the info, the respiratory, and you're going to see the all the SO, the statute of limitation ones, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. You can see that also in here being listed, the PI trial down the line, and you can continue to see. This is just for PI. Clearly, if I was doing employment, right, as in employment law, then you can see all the ones for EL, right? Anything that starts with EL, employment law arbitration schedule, new discrimination case, all of these ones that are listed here are going to be for EL. Same thing with family law, right? Family law is a little bit different because it's not, you can't just put family and it's going to give you everything family related. These are other ones that I have. But let's say you wanted a divorce, right? The divorce case, anything with divorce that's in there, file complaint for a divorce can show up. And these are other ones that I've created. But note that at any given time, if I were to look for the ones for family, right? I can always say, okay, well, what's available for my family law? There are other places here within Abacus where you can search for that, but I think the easiest way is to go back to your Abacus Next here and just take a stab at the family law, go down the line, and there we are. My rule-based calendar, new adoption case, new divorce case, file complaint for divorce, file petition for adoption, file petition for dissolution of marriage, so forth and so on. Okay. That is what I had for you guys today. Do you guys have any questions for me? So one of the questions by Kim is, are the forms modifiable? So the forms that you have, if you're referring to the forms that we have in here, those are set already. However, I don't know if you've taken some of our classes, you can bring and you can customize your own forms and bring them over into the Abacus Forms library. So the answer to that is not the ones that are there, but the ones that you want to bring over. Yes, you can design your own forms. You can custom design your own forms and add them to this forms library. And another question is, can the forms be saved in client directories instead of Abacus Matters? Well, yes, you actually will be saving them in whatever shared drive you want, which with whatever folder designation you would like. As a matter of fact, whenever you save something in the forms library, you can indicate it where to have its base root. So like here, I am sending all of my forms that I'm creating through Abacus, right? I'm telling it to go to my C drive, to my Abacus folder, my docs folder, and then wherever it is. You can choose by going in the lookup, whatever shared drive you guys have, go to that destination. And at the same time, when you do that, you can also put it in whatever folder structure you would like, matter number, case number, link last first, and then even the naming convention that you want. And then at the same time, when you save it, not only are you saving it in that particular folder directory, but you can link it as well into Abacus. So it does the dual process on that. And then the other question is, but all revisions must be done in Abacus, correct? Not necessarily. You can do the revision straight, going straight to your folder and do it there. And whatever the revisions you do there, as long as you've already linked it within Abacus, Abacus simply is going to the link where that original document is located. So it'll pull any revisions that are done. Yes, we do recommend that you can go through Abacus to go get the document because, again, it's going directly to the original document. Under the user preferences, should new event also be selected? What does this prompt do? Good question. So when it comes to the new event option, setup, user preferences, if I go into the appearance, okay, there is the new event prompt for the what code. It's simply, you see how we have a new matter prompt for the case code? Well, that comes out automatically. I don't know if you've done any calendaring through Abacus, but pretty much what it's doing is if I highlight it and I go add new event, what it's saying is the minute that I do this, you can also, depending on the what codes that are set up, it'll prompt you whatever type of what code you want to put in, and the prompt will come up here. But you can always change it in the what code here. So I don't think that's again too specific, unless you want to use that feature. Okay, but you can try it out and then see how that works out for you. Okay. All right. Another question is, are they done the fillable PDF forms? Yes. So again, you can also do not only Word documents that you're creating, you can also customize uh, fillable forms through PDF as well. It's pretty much the same step on how to get that done. Yes, you can do PDFs as well. Then we got, can the matter intake forms be modified? Yes, indeed. The matter intake forms can be modified. As a matter of fact, you have some of them already halfway done, right? If you take a look, let's say a family one, family divorce, that's what we're talking about. Let's say adoption. You like the matter section, you like the client and the petitioner section, you like, the person's being adopted, and then the biological father, biological mother, adoption father. Obviously this is a lot of information. If you didn't really need to add the adopted father or adopted mother, you can actually modify that and take those away. And the way you would do that is you would go to File, Setup, okay, and then you're going to go to Intake Form Manager. Then you would choose the form that you want to modify, and you can come in here. Obviously, this is a more elaborate type of a detailed type of question, but to answer your question, yes, you can modify intake forms as well. Is there a difference opening a matter through the matter screen, new matter, or from the intake form option? Yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, there's a big difference. So, some folks that, let's say, have not used the intake form before, the manual step is the following, right? And I say manual because there's a lot of steps. You're going to create the matter first by clicking on the matters browser. You're going to search to see if it exists, right? Let's say you put Kim. Kim is not there. Okay. Then I'll proceed to add a new matter. When I put my new matter, I can go, okay, the divorce case. I'll fill all this in, and I'm done, and I'll hit save, and I create my case. Okay. Well, after I do that, there's got to be names related to that particular matter, right? So you're going to go to names, and any names that you have, either they're already in the system, in other words, they're already in the database, or you're about to create them. Maybe you have to create 3 or 4, right? You're going to have to create your client, whoever the spouse is, the opposing counsel, right? So that's 3 names there in itself. So you add those names, and then eventually you have to come back into your matter, go back to the case you just created, right? And after you go to the case you just created, you're going to go to link names, and you got to add whoever the client is, whoever the opposing counsel is, whoever the spouse is, by simply going into add link, grabbing the name from the database, select it, and then say, whatever I'm just going to put child here on this one, but you can put all the different types of links. So you're thinking now along the lines of, okay, well, that seems like one step to create the matter. Then you got to create 3 or 4 more names. That's 4 more steps. So that's total of 5 steps. Then you got to come into the matter, and then you got to link the names to the matter. If you're going to create, right? If you're going to link them, that's going to be another 5 different steps. So that's a total 11 steps. Okay. So if I then decide, okay, wow, that looks like 11 steps, there's got to be a faster way of doing that. Yes, and that is our friend, the intake form. So if I go to my intake form and I go family and I go divorce, well, in my divorce, when I am entering my matter here, you do it all in one step. You enter your matter up the top. The client information, you enter it here, right? The spouse here and the opposing counsel. As you're filling out this information, the intake form is automatically linking it to the case. So you don't have to do the linking. So it cuts your work in half. Also, if you wanted to search to see if that matter or case existed before, all you got to do is click on use existing matter, right, to see if that, because that will take you straight to your matters database, right? That's how you would double check. And the same thing, you will double check for any names that you've created by going to use existing name. If the name is not there, then you can just cancel and you can enter the new name here and it'll create a new name record. Okay, so to answer your question, not only does the intake form do all of these steps in one form, but it also creates what we call the this section here, select the hook code for calendar events. And it says responsible attorney. So imagine after you create the intake form to also schedule for you to the right people a series of subsequent action items that got to be handled on a case by case basis. So for the worst case, I'm sure your steps after the intake, after you fill everything out here, is going to be different than if you would do the immigration or if you were to do personal injury, right? So within that intake form, there is a rule that we've embedded already that can calendar subsequent action items that need to be handled and modified. Okay, and that can be taken care of. So the names that you end up entering here is simply the names of the individuals that you want to be known, that not only that the matter was open, but that they have to then execute. For example, let's say that this is a rule, and this rule is called new case. And for every new case for divorce, you're going to have the following. Again, this is a general example. So let's say I'm going to, the example is the following. I'm going to say, well, I got to meet the client with, I got to meet, have the first meeting with a client, right? So that has to be handled by somebody. Someone's got to open up the billing account so that we can then build a client, right? When do I want that? Do I want that the same day that I'm opening up the intake form, or do I want it a day later? Because you can choose the timeline of when do you want that being scheduled in these individuals' calendars as reminders. So it'll pop up as reminders in the calendar. Okay, who's going to write the confirmation letter? Who's going to draft the fee contract, right? These are the kinds of things that with the rule that is already embedded with each one of these intake forms, that can be facilitated as well. So again, the intake form is a lot more efficient than just setting up a matter, setting up a name, then linking it together, because that manual effort doesn't include all these events that are going to be created right off the bat also, as well as linking your names with your matter and creating them as well. So that hopefully answers that question. Why would you use intake forms instead of just the regular old create a matter, create a case, and then link them? Because actually there's a lot more to it than just doing that simply. The other question is, where can I get more detailed information on modifying matter intake forms? So you do have, that's actually something when it comes to the intake forms that we provide here as professional services, as far as giving you an assessment of what you want to do. So if you can, what you can do is you contact the professional service department, tell them that you're interested in creating your own intake form, right? And see how that assessment call goes, and see how much it would cost you to do it. Or if you simply want to have a training on actually just doing the intake forms yourself. As far as more information on that, I don't know if you've tried our knowledge base in abacusnext.com. You can try to see if we have any articles on that. And for that, I'm going to show you really quick where to go. So if you go to abacusnext.com and the resources that we have, there's a section called knowledge bases. Try there to type in how to modify. Obviously, you go knowledge bases, go to your Abacus Law. Type up if intake forms and how to modify them, and then if you have, there might be some information here when you type up that question. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself trying to set up a training with one of us so that we can walk you through what you're doing. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions? Okay, there's one more question here with regards to the availability of the different types of trainings that we do have to offer. So the answer to that is the following. If you scroll, whenever you're within any one of your Abacus Next, uh, websites, and you go all the way to the bottom, right? You can then see where it says support and then schedule a service. So when you go click on schedule a service, you will then have, if some of you have actually booked online through our scheduler, this is the terms and conditions that you have to hit next to. And then after you hit that, you're going to go to Abacus Law. Once you click on Abacus Law and click next, it'll take you straight to all the availability of all of our trainings. As some of you may know already, because you might have scheduled some training with us, we have what we call onboarding trainings for both practice management and billing and accounting, right? So this is the one for onboarding for Abacus Law. In other words, for practice and case management, for administrative training, entering and editing data, creating and managing forms and linked documents, right? Same place, a little bit further down, you're going to see how it says Abacus Accounting and Billing, this onboarding training. These are the onboarding trainings that you got to take for billing and accounting. Now, once you click on that, it'll give you these three options. Same thing here. Once you click on this learning sequence, it'll give you these three options if you wanted to actually book any one of those. But besides that, what other trainings do we offer? So for practice management, as I mentioned before, Abacus Law training, this will be the general training. As it states right here, learning opportunity in this category can be undertaken in any sequence. Ideally, though, before you take any one of these, we always recommend that you do the onboarding first. That goes also for billing and accounting. So if I go into my Abacus, you're going to see all the different trainings that we offer. Okay, creating a new matter, right? Then you can go down the line, creating custom calendar rules. Okay, you'll notice, or as I'm showing you this, creating custom form letters, give you a little snippet. It'll even give you a session agenda if you click on that. Okay, some of them have what we call a webinar option, like this one, free, register for free webinar, like I'm doing right now, pretty much, right? I'm giving you a lot of information, but I'm not giving you that one-on-one attention, right? I'm just reading out the questions from everybody here. All of you have different questions, but if you needed to follow up on those questions, we can't do it on a free webinar. But the free webinars can help you a lot, and it's free, right? But if you wanted that one-on-one training, then of course you're going to click on this and you're going to hit next, right? At the end of the day, you can do all the free webinars you want, and it might be sufficient for what you wanted to learn. But if you needed to actually tap into a little bit more of the one-on-one, answering questions and walking you through and setting up, say, intake forms or setting up anything else, you would then have to book a class, one of these classes, as we keep going down the line that they're available for you. Okay, just know that all these classes are there. So the same concept, not only for your general trainings for Abacus Law, in other words, practice or case management, but also for billing and accounting, right? You're going to click on the training, which is the general training down here. And same concept, you have a bunch of these that we offer, and the same thing with the free webinar that we're just obviously hosting in this instance. All right, that was a great question as well. Let's see. If you guys don't have any questions, I think we're pretty much done. I'll give it a minute or so to see if any other questions arise. And if they do, I'll be happy to try to answer those. All right, guys, folks, ladies, gentlemen, thank you for attending. And that will conclude our webinar for today, working with PALS. Have a nice day, everyone. Take care now.